Earlier on this season, there were lots of trade rumors surrounding the Vancouver Canucks and JT Miller about a possible trade that could happen, sending away JT Miller from Vancouver. And obviously, we have ultimately seen the Rangers make that pretty massive trade, sending away, first round pick, as well as Philip Hedl and Victor Mancini over to the Canucks for JT and a couple other players as well. A prospect, Jackson Dorrington, and a decent depth defenseman, you could say, who's still somewhat young, kind of mid-20s there, in Eric Brandstrom. But we have some pretty massive news that has come out stating that there was another team, a pretty good team as well, and a team that you could definitely say is better than the New York Rangers right now, and possibly has a better future going forward, as they have some very, very elite players on their team. But the rumor is that JT Miller shut down a trade to go to that really, really good team to ultimately rejoin the New York Rangers instead. So we're going to take a look at what this article had to say about JT Miller shutting down that pretty massive trade, which has reportedly kind of maybe screwed over that specific team in a little bit of a way as well. So that's pretty interesting. We'll take a look at what that kind of article had to say about JT shutting down that deal. We'll also take a look at how good JT has been, because I think he's been quite good since joining the Rangers, as well as we'll kind of talk a bit about the New York Rangers, kind of where they're at right now in that kind of playoff race, as they're coming off of a loss, and there are definitely some big question marks with this team and kind of what they're ultimately going to decide to do with the upcoming trade deadline happening on March 7th. But let's get right into it here and take a look at the article talking about JT Miller shutting down that massive trade. And they ended up saying, and this article is from Yardbarker as well, but they ended up saying, now, a shocking new report has come out from insider Renaud Lavoie, who is now reporting that Miller shut down a major deal that would have sent him to the Colorado Avalanche, making it clear that his intent was to return to the New York Rangers if he were to be moved. And I think this is pretty awesome for the Rangers, who ended up getting a very good player because he didn't decide to go to the Avalanche. I mean, it seems like there was a possible trade that would have sent him there, but he declines it. And obviously, it seems like he definitely wanted to go to the Rangers, which is great. I mean, he's a very good player, star-level player, and we knew the Rangers wanted to make a trade for that really good kind of player, a superstar or star-level player. I'm sure they'll be looking to add another one of those type of players in this upcoming offseason possibly, but I think a guy like JT was a really great move by Drury, and I know some fans don't love the trade, but I think what the Rangers gave up and what they got back in return also, getting back Jackson Dorrington, pretty much swapping two defense prospects there, one maybe a little more NHL ready, and Victor Mancini, the guy the Rangers gave up, but you still got back a good, decent looking, defense prospect there. I can't imagine it's too much further behind, value wise than a guy like Victor Mancini. And then you've also got, a decent depth guy in Eric Brandstrom, who's going to be an RFA. You have his rights there, so we'll see what happens. But I think overall, with what the Rangers gave up and what they got back in return, it's not bad at all. And, JT, I think is a player who you definitely want to have in your team and brings a lot of what this Rangers team kind of needed more of. And he's definitely a guy who's, a good offensive and defensive player, but what he also can bring is that feistiness, that toughness, that grit, that physicality that this team absolutely needed to add more of, and he kind of proved that at the Four Nations face-off tournament there. He ended up fighting Colton Parayko right at the start of the game there, and Colton is not a small guy. He's got quite a bit of weight and size on a guy like JT, but JT, he sat in there. He threw some punches, obviously took a few as well. I wouldn't say won that fight, but he is still a guy who has proven to be a very tough player. He's got that feistiness, that toughness to him that this team obviously needed a lot more of. So adding him in is a step in the right direction, in my opinion. Is it going to fix all of this team's issues? Absolutely not. But can he help with some of them? Absolutely. So I'm very happy with this trade. And this is where things get really interesting, as in the article, they basically talk about how Mikko Rantanen and that kind of trade possibly only happened because of the Colorado Avalanche thinking they were getting JT Miller. So in this article, they end up saying, quote, in their minds, they made the trade because JT Miller was coming to Colorado. They were convinced that JT Miller would be traded from the Canucks to the Avalanche, and from what I'm told, JT raised his hand and said, quote, I'm not playing in Denver. And to me, that is a little wild because of how good of a team the Colorado Avalanche are. And going forward, they obviously have two of the best players in the entire NHL, two arguably kind of top three guys in the entire league in Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon, right up there alongside guys like, Connor McDavid. So I think it's pretty interesting there. They obviously wanted to go to the Rangers over Colorado. Now, there's definitely some kind of, factors away from hockey and kind of on the personal kind of life side of things that I'm sure played into effect here, I'd imagine for sure. And, JT obviously having been a former Ranger, for quite some time there, being drafted by this team, starting his career here with the Rangers, knowing the area and the organization, the team and stuff like that, it also probably had a pretty big effect on what his ultimate decision was. And taking a look at one more piece of the article, as they end up saying not only did the move affect Vancouver, but it was also reportedly the reason why the Avs moved Mikko Rantanen to make Miller their long-term solution at the 2C position. Ultimately, they were left with plenty of salary cap, but no Miller after he shut down the deal. So that's where things, if this is 100% true, it's pretty wild there, because the Colorado Avalanche obviously kind of put themselves in a not great spot. If they truly traded away Mikko Rantanen before getting back a guy like JT Miller, that's questionable. I think obviously you want to get that move done to bring in a guy like Miller, because you have to have that room, but you really got to be quite certain that a deal is going to be getting done if you're going to be trading away a guy like Mikko and obviously trying to bring in a guy like that to fill that spot. So that's pretty wild there in my opinion, but I think in general this move ended up working out for the Rangers, as they got back a very good superstar or star caliber player for the presumably kind of long-term future here. Obviously, we'll see how he kind of continues to play as he ages, but I think he's going to be a really good player for years and years to come. So JT Miller in that trade for the Rangers was definitely quite good. And now taking a look at what JT Miller has done so far this season with the New York Rangers, he has a total of 9 games played, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 total points, but he does have 4 of his 5 goals at even strength, 2 of his 5 assists at even strength. So 6 of his 10 points so far at even strength. Not great, but obviously not terrible. But the big thing here is he's winning his faceoffs at a 60% rate, which is phenomenal. He's also got 5 block shots, but 31 hits in 9 games played. He's averaging over 3 hits per game, which exactly what I was talking about. He can bring that physicality that we know this team desperately needs more of. So I think adding in JT Miller here was a really smart move by Chris Drury. He brings a lot of what this team needed more of. Some more offense, a nice kind of defensive center as well, a guy who can win faceoffs, but also be a physical menace out there as well, which he definitely can be at moments. And especially come playoff time, he's going to be the exact kind of player you want on your team and hate to play against. And now we'll take a look at where the New York Rangers currently stand in the kind of wild card race in the Eastern Conference. And, right now they're not in a terrible spot, but, they're still about 4 points back of one of the wild card spots. And I think it's going to be a really tough fight. And after the team did lose Adam Fox, it's obviously not going to be any easier. But I still think at this upcoming trade deadline, really with what no matter happens, especially after this Fox injury, I think it is very, very key for this team to go out there and sell hard. Obviously, I don't think we have to trade away every single possible piece, and you have to trade away a guy like Kreider and Keandre right now, but I think those are kind of pieces who probably are more of maybe an offseason kind of trade, where you're maybe more of just kind of looking to trade away guys like a Jimmy Vesey, a Brian Lindgren, a Riley Smith, those kind of players who aren't expiring contracts. And even a guy like Zach Jones, he can stick around here, especially with Adam Fox, having that injury. I think he's kind of needed even more now, but I think with him, he is an RFA this upcoming offseason, unlike, Lindgren, Riley Smith, and Jimmy Vesey. Those guys are all UFAs, so at least you have rights there with an Eric Brandstrom and a Zach Jones, so it's not like those expiring contracts necessarily kind of must moves, whereas, a guy like Riley Smith, I think it's very key for this team to trade him away now, get back some decent value, and same thing with a guy like Lindgren and possibly Vesey as well. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts on that kind of JT Miller kind of rumor that came out of him apparently kind of declining a trade to go to Colorado to come to the Rangers? And also, what are your thoughts on the New York Rangers and their kind of playoff chances right now, as they're definitely not in the best spot. They're fighting with quite a few other teams there, but there's still over 20 games left in the season to play, so they definitely still have a chance. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.